At my son's wedding, I expected nothing more than a quiet seat near the aisle, a place where a mother could watch her child step into a new life. Instead, I stopped short the moment I reached the reception hall. There, exactly where my assigned seat should have been, stood a metal trash can, clean, polished, and placed with intention. My name card was taped neatly to the top, as if someone had taken the time to make sure the humiliation landed just right. I froze. My hand hung midair, fingers stiffening as the laughter of a few nearby guests rippled behind me. They tried to hide it, but whispers travel quickly in a room full of polished glass and warm lights. My daughter-in-law approached with a smile so sweet it almost stung. "It's just a joke," she said, waving a hand as if brushing away a fly. "Don't be so dramatic. I'm glad to have you here with me. Follow this story until the end, and let me know which city you're watching from so I can see how far my voice travels." I stood there for a long second, long enough for the edges of the moment to sharpen in my memory. The music shifted behind me, lively and bright, as if the room itself didn't feel the weight pressing into my chest. I removed the name card, folded it carefully, and placed it inside my purse. Then I walked toward the farthest corner of the hall, a place no one had bothered to decorate. From there, the celebration looked almost like a distant film. The chandelier sparkling, guests clinking glasses, the hum of conversations rising and falling. My son sat at the head table with his new bride, his smile wide, his eyes soft. He didn't look my way. It wasn't anger I felt then, just a quiet understanding that somewhere along the way, a distance had formed between us. I reached for the untouched glass of sparkling cider set in front of me, feeling its coolness against my fingers. The chair beneath me felt steady, grounding, even as I watched a slow dance unfold in the center of the room, a dance I once imagined sharing with my son. Instead, he guided his bride across the floor, their shadows swaying in the amber light. A bridesmaid passed by and paused. "Are you all right?" she asked gently. "I'm fine," I answered. And I was, not comfortable, not joyful, but steady, like someone who has weathered storms far worse than public humiliation disguised as humor. Still, sitting there alone, I couldn't stop my mind from drifting back to the months leading up to this day. The missed invitations, the sudden coldness in my daughter-in-law's tone, the way she flinched whenever I held the baby. Little things that didn't make sense at the time, but made a chilling kind of sense now, in the quiet corner of a wedding where I felt more like an uninvited observer than family. Then, as if summoned by my thoughts, my daughter-in-law's aunt slipped through the crowd and approached my table. She sat across from me, fingers interlacing in her lap. "You shouldn't be sitting out here alone," she said softly. "I'm fine here," I replied. She hesitated before speaking again. "I saw what they did to your seat. You didn't deserve that." Silence settled between us. Not awkward, just heavy enough to carry something important. "There's something I think you should know," she continued. "Something about the baby." My breath steadied, not quickened. I had walked too close to suspicion for too long to be startled now. She looked around before leaning in. "The dates, the appointments, things weren't lining up. I think your daughter-in-law has been hiding something. I don't think the baby is your son's." I didn't flinch. I didn't gasp. I simply folded my hands neatly in my lap. "How long have you known?" The woman swallowed. "I confronted her once. She brushed me off. But after what happened tonight, after what they did, I couldn't stay silent." I nodded, a gesture of gratitude, not surprise. "Thank you." She left as quietly as she came, disappearing into the clusters of laughing guests. I let my hand rest on the side of my purse, feeling the faint outline of the envelope I had tucked inside days ago. The DNA test. Unopened. Still sealed. I didn't need to read the results before the wedding. I only needed them if tonight became what I feared it would be. The DJ called for guests to gather for another toast. Glasses lifted, smiles widened, and somewhere in the room my daughter-in-law laughed. Too brightly, too sharply. As if the sound could drown out the truth slipping closer to the surface. Moments later, another familiar face approached my table. Maggie, the childhood friend who had known my son since grade school. She didn't waste time sitting down. "I just came from the clinic on Oak Street," she said in a low voice. "I've seen her there. Not with your son, with someone else, a man she argued with in the parking lot." The words didn't shatter me. They simply settled into place, fitting exactly where the puzzle had been incomplete. I breathed out slowly. Thank you for telling me. She placed a gentle hand on mine before leaving. Her eyes full of sympathy, she didn't need to speak aloud. I sat still, letting the truth weave itself quietly through the evening air. The humiliation at the entrance, the forced laughter, the cracks in the timeline, the fear behind her eyes when she noticed me watching her. It was all connected, all pointing to the envelope in my purse, all leading me toward what I had to do next. Not out of anger, not out of vengeance, but out of dignity, something I refused to lose, even if they tried to strip it from me with a trash can and a name card. And as the music rose again, as glasses clinked and guests cheered, I straightened my back in the quiet corner of the room, knowing the night had shifted. Not in their favor, but in truth's. Everyone will see the full story very soon. If you want to hear the rest, make sure to subscribe and like the video, and visit Everyday Family Stories to watch the full continuation. Link in the description.